Ambassador James Jeffrey. Ambassador, thank you for being with me. This statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry is the latest development, so I'd like to start there. They're confirming that Assad decided to leave the presidential post and has left the country. What are the potential safe havens for Assad? If he's out of Syria, where are the most likely places he will be welcomed?
I'll touch on that in a second, but first, thanks for having me on. And secondly, let's get straight to the chase here. This is a great day for the Syrian people. It's a great day for the United States and our allies, Turkey, Israel, and others, that this center of the Iranian tentacles in the region has collapsed. As far as where Assad goes now, probably Tehran. I don't think the Russians will take them. I could be wrong, because the Russians will try to negotiate to keep their bases up near Latakia, close to the Mediterranean.
You know, as we're seeing images of people there in Istanbul this morning celebrating in the streets, you know, of course, we're seeing Syrian refugees around the world celebrating the fall of Assad. It may be a joyous, really momentous moment for the people. But also, would you say there's a bit of unease and concern about what comes next, especially when it comes to how the next government may be formed, especially when you have, as you heard from Paula, you know, such a potpourri of different rebel groups who, you know, will now try to create a government?
Absolutely. There are some immediate issues that the U.S., while we're, to quote both the Biden administration and President-elect Trump, we don't want to get involved, certainly not massively on the ground, but we do have troops in country. We want them safe. We want chemical weapons we know Assad had to be secured. We want the Islamic State, which is still operating in the east of the country, continue to be suppressed. And we want to see a peaceful transition and no threats to the neighbors. What we're hearing from the Gulf Arab states, from Jordan, and from Iraq is some nervousness. Assad was very unpopular. He was a threat to the region through his alliance with Iran, but he was a threat they knew through him and his father for 50 years. They don't know who these guys are, so there is some nervousness. We're going to have to work closely with the UN, which has a mandate still on the books to try to reconcile everybody in Syria, and also stay close with our partners, which is, again, Israel, Turkey, the Arab states, and in the northeast, the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. This is all very important, but it all can be done. That's the point I want to make. This is a really good thing.
Mr. Ambassador, what's your interpretation of how HTS and its leader, Jelani, how they are executing this takeover, escorting the Prime Minister, Jalali, out of the government building into a hotel? Jelani, who's head of this group, who posted on Telegram, "Don't fire off your weapons into the air. Do not approach government buildings." The message to not just the people of Syria, but to the global community. What's your take on how they're doing it?
So far, so good. We had indirect contact with his movement when I was in government. We couldn't deal directly with them because they're on the terrorism list. But Syria is a very messy country. A lot of people are considered terrorists by a lot of other people. We saw him as a bulwark against Assad. Two administrations, the Trump administration and then the Biden administration, worked with all these factions to freeze the conflict and stop Iran, Assad, and Russia from taking over the country. That worked until last week, and then the country started collapsing. Again, that's good. Jelani has been relatively effective in managing a significant chunk of Syria in the northwest, with some 3 million people who fled Assad into the area. He's worked closely with the Turks. And again, we had USAID providing through contractors support to the people in that area administered by Jelani. We had to sign waivers, but it all worked. We didn't have any problems with him. He and his movement have not launched terrorist attacks internationally for many, many years.
Ambassador James Jeffrey, thank you so much for being with me.
All right, let's get right to CNN senior White House producer Betsy Klein now. She's joining us with reaction from the White House, from President Biden on this breaking news. What are you hearing?